When I was at school, everybody had a PS2. More and more people were playing video games at this time. Mainly because of the whole concept that the PS2 was also a DVD player. And that seemed to reel in a whole new audience of people to play games. All of my friends had the PlayStation 2. We all had very different games. We weren't all into the exact same thing. But that was actually better than if we were all into the same thing, because that way we got to try new style of games. I had a friend that was big into strategy games, so I got to play a lot of them. I had a friend that was big into role-playing games, so I got to play a lot of them. And I was big into platformer games, so they got to play a lot of them. I did have a friend that played a lot of sports games. I did not go round his house too often. But there was this one friend of mine who I've mentioned quite a lot in the past on this channel. His name is Pete, and he is one of my oldest friends. His nickname is Chicken. Don't ask. Now, while everyone had a PS2, there were two people that had something different. Pete was one of them. Instead of going for the same console as everyone else, he had decided to go for the Nintendo GameCube. Now, the best thing about Pete as a kid was the fact that I could go round his house after school, we would straight away go into the loft space of his house, turn on the GameCube, and just play it constantly. His mum rarely bothered us for anything. She was really easygoing, really cool. And we would just play a shit ton of GameCube games. One of the games I remember playing the most was Legend of Zelda Wind Waker. At the time of this game's release, a lot of people were giving it shit over the graphics. This is mainly because of the whole PS2 versus GameCube versus Xbox triangle thing that was going on. Graphics just seemed to be really important, even though they're really not. And because of the new style of graphics in the Wind Waker game, a lot of people slagged it off. This was stupid. Wind Waker is a fantastic game. You would think the fact that you have to sail over so much ocean would be boring, because it's a bit bare at times. But it's not boring. It's always exciting. It's always enjoyable. I can't fault the game in any way. This is one of the few video games in the world that I would actually say is perfect. Me and Pete played this game for fucking ages. It took a long time before we completed it, and that was mainly because we liked to wander around a lot. Not so much for little mini quests, but we just wanted to see what cool shit we could find. We didn't really have access to the internet at this point. We didn't own a strategy guide. And even if we did, we probably wouldn't have read the fucking thing. That would have sucked some of the fun out of it, I think. It's not my favourite Zelda game of all time, but it is Pete's. One of the greatest GameCube games there is. Yes, it was released for the Wii U, and it looks stunning, but I wish it would be released for the Nintendo Switch. It probably won't, but hell, I can keep wishing. The next game, Resident Evil. The remake. The original Resident Evil for PS1 scared the shit out of me as a kid. I was mainly scared because of the amount of panic the game issued upon me. I had never played a game with tank controls, and I could not fucking figure them out. I was too young. But when I got to that first zombie in the PS1 game, I shat it. That scared the crap out of me. It still does scare me for some fucking reason. And so of course the remake on the GameCube is even fucking scarier. The music in this game is eerie as hell. The graphics are eerie as hell. Everything is eerie as hell. And yes, they've even improved the voice acting, which very much needed doing. And when you find that first zombie in the game, yep, I shit it again. I am no good at this game. I am not ashamed to admit it. I suck at it. But I still look back on it and think, what an amazing game it was. I had no idea you could remake a game in such a grand way, in such a big, massive way. The only remakes I'd seen before that were from 8-bit to 16-bit. Kinda like if you saw Super Mario Bros. 3 remade on the Super Nintendo, under the guise of Super Mario All-Stars, for example. Unfortunately, the tank controls are still there, but if you're into GameCube, you have to try this game. And it's been re-released on the PS4. So if you can't be fucked with GameCube, you can still try this one. Now I should quickly point out for this next game that growing up I didn't own a Sega Dreamcast. I had one friend who had one, but he didn't have this next game, so the first time I got to play it was on the GameCube. That game is Sonic Adventure 2. How can I sum up this game? The best way is to probably just play a bit of the music from the first level. That track was fucking awesome back in the day. You would sing to it every time you played it. And yes, when it came to feeding the chow in the game, you pretty much just replayed level 1 again and again and again and again. It's a really weird game. I have a lot of fond memories for it, but that's because I replayed the levels I liked all the time. For the chow and other stuff like that. All the crap levels, like the Knuckles levels, my god, I fucking hate them. You know, I never replayed them, so I don't remember them that well. That's why the game seems better than it actually is, because I can only remember the bits that I saw repeatedly. It is a fantastic game, but I don't think it's as good as people rate it, to be honest. Definitely not a bad game, though. I would say it's like an 8 out of 10 if I had to give it some sort of score like that. Next game is a weird one for me. I didn't get to play this game. It was one of them concepts where you'd be round a friend's house, and you would just watch them play it. And of course Pete was the only one with a GameCube, so I watched him play it. He offered for me to play my own memory in the game, but I had more fun watching what he was doing, seeing him progress. Anyway, the game was Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance. The game reminded me of Diablo 2 so much, and Diablo 2 was the only PC game, bar Command & Conquer, the original one, that I had played a shit ton of. I can't remember a hell of a lot about the game, unfortunately. I just remember how cool it seemed. It was very Lord of the Ring-y-ish. And I think the music was made by the guy who did the music for Oblivion. Jeremy Soule, or Soul. I'm afraid I don't know how to pronounce his name. Due to not remembering a hell of a lot, I can't talk much more about it, but it was a fantastic game. Now, a year or two later, I managed to get some money together to buy my own GameCube. Now, I got the black GameCube that came with Pokemon Colosseum. That's right, the game you're seeing right now in the background. The chance to play a Pokemon game on a home console was too much for me to miss out on. I had Pokemon Stadium on the N64 and fucking loved it, so I had to have this. Little did I know that the game would be shit. Let's face it, when people talk about Pokemon games, ones they remember and love as a kid, no one talks about this one. It's boring. The story is boring. The atmosphere is boring. The concept of stealing Pokemon to save them is boring. The game isn't exactly bad. I had to play it for this recording to get game footage, and yeah, it wasn't as shit as I thought. But I did get so bored. Graphically, it's okay. But musically, yeah, it's the same as everything else, it's just fucking boring. And the strange thing is, your starter Pokemon are my favourites. Well, kind of. My favourite Pokemon in the world is Eevee, and after that, it's Espeon. So you get an Espeon and an Umbreon to start with, which is awesome. Looking at the front cover and the back of the box at the time, I must have been so excited. But I can't remember that feeling, because I've been bored out of my fucking brain since then. This is not a good game, and I have no fucking clue how it got a sequel. Which PS is also shit. Now another game that's Pokemon related, but at the same time is not a game, is Pokemon Box. If you had Pokemon Ruby, Sapphire or Emerald, you could store your Pokemon on a memory card via this disc. Now that doesn't sound like much, because nowadays we have Pokemon Box for your son and all that on your 3DS and whatnot. But back then, this was a big thing. The ability to keep your Pokemon in a safe place was incredible. game data died in your games sometimes. Or you had a stupid little brother or sister that would come along and go, new game, then save, because they're cunts. Let's face it, we've all had that one friend that was the same kind of person, just a cunt. This way, you could save your Pokemon, keep them safe, and not have to worry about dipshits ruining your game. So yeah, in terms of a game, it's nothing. But in terms of Pokemon importance and relevance to Pokemon and all that, yes, I think it deserves mentioning because the rest of the world seems to have forgotten about it. It has no purpose now. It's pretty much useless now. But I still think it deserves a shout out. The next game is really weird, but it's the last one I remember seeing Pete play back in the day. Doshin the Giant. This game is fucking weird. You are the derpiest looking creature in all existence, but you can also be some sort of pissed off devil. It's kind of like the game Black and White, but for kiddies. Yeah, having said that it's for kiddies, it was actually tons of fun. You were the god giant of the island. You could raise and lower the land, take care of villagers, or you could fucking kill them. The game never got boring, but it never got sensible either. It was pretty retarded. I haven't played the game since then, because I think this is one of them rare and strange circumstances where the game is valuable. It costs like 60 quid or some pony. Don't quote me on that, but I remember the last time I looked into buying it, I decided, no, I'm not spending that much on such a derpy game. But it is a good game. If you magically find one in the wild, fucking buy it. Then post it to me. Now the last game I want to mention today was one that blew me away, and I didn't play it for years. Metroid Prime. During the time when this came out, a lot of people were moving towards the first-person shooter genre. Yes, a lot of people loved it before that, thanks to Doom and games like that, but with updated graphics on your home consoles, this was something more and more people wanted to play. And a lot of people were shifting towards Halo for that, or Call of Duty, but at the time, with the people I knew, it seemed to be Halo. No one mentioned Metroid Prime. And I am shocked as to why. This game is fucking awesome. If I had discovered this as a kid, as well as Halo, I think I would have favoured this over Halo, except for maybe the story. I think Halo's got a better story. When I say Halo, I mean Halo 1. I'm not expanding beyond the first games in these two series. I think Halo 1 has a better story than Metroid Prime 1, but gameplay-wise, Metroid Prime kicks Halo's ass. I don't really care if you agree or not, but that's my opinion. Metroid Prime is the tits. I wish I got to play it back in the day. I really missed out on that one. But hey, at least I get to play it today. And it is sodding excellent. I have a lot of fond memories when it comes to going round my friend Pete's house as a kid. Me and a bunch of other lads would be at his, in that loft, sitting around one small-ass telly with a GameCube, 4 controllers, yes, they were all from the pre-owned bin because we're tight, and we would just play endless amounts of multiplayer games across various other games that I haven't mentioned today as well. We would get drunk on something called White Lightning. It was not the cheapest cider we could buy. The cheapest we could buy was Tesco Value, which was basically headache in a bottle. But White Lightning got us mega pissed. So there was a lot of video games, a lot of substance abuse, a lot of being just completely trashed. Those are probably my earliest memories of being completely wankered as a person. Yeah, it was a good time. I think that's when I bonded with my friends the most, over GameCube and cheap cider. The years would go on and we would play more games and we would drink a hell of a lot more, of course. But I think this is where it all started. Before that, video games for me were either ones I played all on my own, or on very rare occasion, 2-player with one other person, of course. So that was the start of my life with the GameCube. Via the one friend that didn't have a PS2 to begin with. Although there was that other person as well. He didn't have a PS2. He didn't have a GameCube. He had something else.